The Fed has provided the stock market with its much needed assistance. It's been living off of the nourishment of the ever-expanding balance sheet. If this changes, we will have a major collapse of the stock market. Just look at these upcoming indicators and witness the future. There's no other way around it. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Today we're going to look at this issue. I want to connect it in with a few others. Let's begin with this. The US Treasury yield. Now this here is often seen as one of the leading indicators for a recession. The US Treasury yield curve slumps for the 6th straight week. That's the longest since March 2016 and its lowest weekly close since none other than 2007. We are definitely into the financial crisis part 2, and you'll see that right here being the same level back 10 years ago, essentially. This shouldn't surprise anybody, but here we are. Now, what I would say is that one indicator is not enough to signal a slump. That's not the way it works. A lot of people accuse me of cherry picking particular indicators to show that there is a collapse. I have covered, both on this channel and in my books, literally hundreds of different indicators that support my thesis. But the stock market itself is rising. Why is that? Well, we've covered that before, and I'll get into that here in the next chart. Let me show you here. The G3 central bank balance sheet. It has been directly correlated, not just with the NASDAQ, but with stocks in general, particularly though, with these so-called FANG stocks, and even more in particular with Amazon. And you'll see the direction is pretty obvious. It's been moving up. There's been some slight variances along the way, but here it is. Now, should that change? Should the Fed decide to pull back, we are going to have a major collapse, and it will be in direct proportion to the amount they pull back on. Because if it's directly linked now on the way down, it's going to be the same situation. So you can expect that the stock market will head downward. Now, if the Fed pulls back, but the Bank of Japan and the Chinese central bank, Japanese, and so on, increase their money printing, well, then it could push the stock market back up. So we could see that. But it looks like central banks are claiming, anyway, that they're going to pull back on the balance sheet. A lot of people would say, but they know that would crash the economy, therefore they're not going to do that. And so we will have perpetual growth. Even if it is inflated dollars, it doesn't matter. Well, I get that. You definitely don't want to keep too much cash in an environment like this because we have this inflation that's taking place. And it is causing the inflation to take place within equities. That is very clear. Then you have to address the situation. Why would they pull back? I believe, if they're going to do this, that they are doing so intentionally to crash the market so that they can come in and pick up assets, whether it's equities or anything else that takes a hit, for pennies on the dollar. Look at what they did at the fire sale in Greece, for example, buying up everything for essentially nothing. And I've covered that here countless times. And that could be the result of this. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. But there is a direct correlation. It is very clear. It is something you cannot argue with. The central bank balance sheets and the stock market are directly linked. And there it is, the G3 central bank balance sheet. And what they're noting, I think it's too early to note this, but they're noting this decline. And they're suggesting that this is a very significant decline going back quite a while here. For me, it's a little too early to say that, but it's something to note. I mean, we had this previously where you could see, like in this area here, for example, a severe decline. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, but if their words that they've continued to lie to us about if they go ahead and actually do it and they pull back on the balance sheet to a degree that's actually significant, then they will crash the stock market. US services PMI. Look at the different indicators. Look at the hard data. I mean, it just fell off a cliff. I think there was a little bit of hype to begin with coming inward, where you saw Trump coming in and there was some talk about expanding jobs and everything else. And I don't necessarily believe that's not true. I just think that the general way is going automation, robots, offshoring jobs. I still think that that's the general way that things will happen. But where it goes, how long it takes, and things that change along the way, we'll have to see. But ultimately, the trend is still going to continue. This year I thought was pretty interesting. One of the worst things, in fact, about financial so-called assets is the bond. Because you buy a bond from a government or from a corporation, I think, of course, government bonds are much worse than corporate bonds, is that you trust. You put your trust into that country or corporation. So you ultimately, let's say you buy a 10-year bond, you hope that that will eventually, 10 years down the road, will pay you back. That's the whole premise. However, we're talking about century bonds, if you can believe it or not. A century. I mean, I laugh. I can't even, I'm holding back my laughter right now to try and do this properly. Look at this. China, 2096 maturity. What are some other ones? Like 2117. You can buy an Argentina government bond that will mature in 2117. Who in their right mind, what kind of person would buy this? And not only that, but they've done so well at selling these. That's what's so crazy. It's not as if, you know, somebody's selling some garbage nobody wants. Somehow, those in the financial industry ate these up. That's, I mean, to me, that's crazy. Because you know they're worthless. Along the way, Argentina will go bankrupt several times if history is any guide. So are you going to go ahead and bail them out? Are you going to get paid out at the end of 2117? Or are you going to lose most of it along the way? I mean, it's crazy. Nobody's going to hold these to maturity, but why even have it? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. It's so silly the way that they do finance. And it is something that I've really tried to stress along the way. These are useless assets that are only there to show face for a system that is dead, rotting, and decaying. This is a chart you've seen before, but I love it. I wanted to show you it here. Purchasing power of the US dollar indexed. And you could see over time, it has been crushed. When you think about something, how much it costs, think of it in real terms. What did this cost for your parents? What did it cost for your grandparents? And it seems to me that, as I use the example in my book, a loaf of bread 100 years ago is still a loaf of bread. Probably today has a lot more chemicals in it, but you get the picture. It's a loaf of bread. There's not much to it. There's not technology in it or anything else, or not supposed to be. Yet, that loaf of bread might have cost a nickel 100 years ago. Now today it's $3. Well, what happened along the way? Well, the dollar has been devalued. You may not see it, but they do so through these means that are secretive to the average person. They don't get it. But because of central banking, we have an escalation in this destruction of the currency. That's why it's like this. That's why we can't rely on a currency to begin with. We don't know what's going to happen. That's why we have to hold real assets. That is the solution. it's not foolproof in any way, but trying to have our faith in a central bank, which is designed specifically to destroy us, no thanks. UK CPI year over year, ever since the Brexit, and technically even before that, we can see the trend increasing year over year. And a lot of people have denied this. A lot of people that have stated that they haven't seen this in the UK. And then there are others which say, yes, absolutely, we have seen this. I'd like to know your insight on this. For those who are there, I have seen, things like crop shortages and everything else cause a big problem. But we have also seen the other issues, political issues and everything else that have caused a big problem. So I'd like to know those on the ground, what you are experiencing. That's all for this video. If you found it informative, please give me a thumbs up. Last but not least, if you found this video informative, I know you'll find my books, The Money GPS, and my new release, Global Economic Collapse, even more informative. So the first book is basically about the 4 asset classes and how to profit from that. I talk about precious metals. I talk about basically everything. And then the new book covers on those familiar topics, but then I get into what I call the Money GPS strategy. So I basically help people to reduce their expenses, their monthly expenses, and get a hold on earning some income today. That's also into becoming self-sufficient and getting away from the monetary system altogether. So if you found this video informative, then I definitely would ask that you check out these books. You can flip through them. Go over to Amazon. They have a look inside feature. It's going to allow you to do that. I just repeated myself, but that's the way it is. If you want to take a look, I'm doing something a little different here. I found a way to take the actual transcription of my videos, which, by the way, in YouTube, there's a feature for those who are hearing impaired, or maybe you like to read the text regardless. There's a way to hit the CC button, and that will actually bring up my words. It's pretty accurate, not exactly accurate. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to download that transcription, and then I'm going to put that. Unfortunately, I can't put it on YouTube. They won't let me. My videos will be banned because of the words I say. But I'll put it on Steemit because they're not going to ban me there. So if you want the transcription for any reason, like I said, hearing impaired or anything else, you can always download it there. So I don't know how long it takes for the transcription to appear, if it's instantly or whatever. I'm going to try this. And I think that it would be good for attracting people into the videos more, because when you do searches online and everything, you'll be able to find it. But also for individuals who, have some issues. So I hope you appreciate that very much. And if you're also interested in that, let me know. I'd like to hear that. Take care.